This is one of those stories that's chilling. Nobody died, but it's one of those stories that just reminds us how much we take law enforcement for granted, how thin that thin blue line really is. This story comes to me from a gentleman who lives in my part of the country, and doesn't live too terribly far from where I live. And one night he got a phone call, and another friend, three or four of them, good buddies, don't live terribly far apart, but far enough that it takes several minutes to get back and forth. And they're in a lot of the same local clubs and groups, and some of them even attend church together. And out of this, he gets this phone call saying so and so, which is a mutual friend, has a home invasion going on right now. And so this gentleman says, "Hey, whoa, have we called 911?" And the guy says, "Yes, we have, but they've told us we're on our own." And you have to understand, in a lot of rural areas, you're dealing with, like in some of these small towns with 2 or 3 thousand people that live in them, you may only have one or two officers on duty at night, period. This is at night. Not only that, but if you live in the country, there may be 2 or 3 officers on duty, sheriff's deputies, for the entire county. Now you think about how large some of these counties are, how many square miles that is. If a city with 3,000 people in it has, one cop on duty at night, and then you've got three for the entire county. Wow. And come to find out, apparently there was a domestic dispute that night that had two of the officers at it, and that were actually county sheriff's deputies. So this gentleman was truly on his own. And so the man that tells me the story, he looks at his wife and he says, I can't let my friend, my neighbor, and of course, living in the country, your neighbor's not the guy across the street from you. Your neighbor may be a mile plus away. That's just one of the things about being a country boy. And who your neighbor is an entirely different thing. It's relative. And he says, I can't let him face this alone. And she understood. It's a conservative family. So he loads up and goes. Three guys actually arrive to help the gentleman who had the home invasion in progress. And the gentleman who was threatened, he had entered his home and discovered there were actually two people in his home already, and they were between him and his firearm. So he was in trouble. And as he tried to circle around to leave, they actually had put stuff behind him in the floor, messing with his head, and he realized he had some real knuckleheads here. And so at that point, he ran out of the house and was on his cell phone and calling 911, and they told him, let them have whatever they want and so forth, but at this point, get out of the house. And he said, everything I own is in that house, and he said, I can't just walk away. And so the irony of this story is they never did get a call back from any law enforcement that night. I'm not blaming anybody, but they never got a follow-up call of any kind. And I talked to the gentleman that related the story to me. I've actually talked to two or three of them about it. And so again, I'm not blaming law enforcement. Many of my friends are in law enforcement, but that's just the reality of the thin blue line. Is there's only so much to spread around, and if they're tied up somewhere literally dealing with a crime somewhere else, you may be out of luck and have to defend yourself. You need to be prepared for that reality. And so at this point, the four men, the three of them arrived as I recall, and or two of them arrived as I recall, and immediately were able to run the bad guys out of the house. They came in armed. There was a shotgun, a revolver, and a large caliber semi-automatic involved, as I recall. The gentleman that related the story to me, he had I think it was a 9mm handgun, but he had several mags on him. And so he arrives, and they end up securing the house. And then as they're standing there, come to find out these cretins that had broken into the house were actually up the hill watching them in the dark, and took off in a pickup truck down an old logging road. You have to understand, this is a rural area that I come from, and there's a lot of old logging roads out here from still usable from the 1800s. You just have to keep them up. And so what happens is they then fled, and I kid you not, I've talked to these gentlemen. These knuckleheads that had broken into this house came back like every 10 minutes for at least 45 minutes. They came back several times, driving by very slowly. And of course, you can't, they were on a county road at this point. You can't prove it was them, but you can hear the cammed out truck. It's late at night. It's rural. Nobody else out there has a truck like that. And they're eyeballing the guys that are standing there. And I have to laugh because imagine, the looks on the faces of these people that had tried to break in, had broken in, and imagine the looks on their faces as they realize these guys are here, these guys are serious, and these guys aren't going anywhere. And so two of the men eventually did leave. The third man of the group of four actually stayed with the homeowner for at least another hour, as I recall, and visited with him at length and made him feel better. And his family was out, and he had waved them off and told them not to come home for a while, so they came home. And one of the interesting things about that was I figured that a lot of the ladies will kind of harp on the guys for that sort of thing. But I talked to the gentleman that actually he was the fourth man on the scene. He was the third man that arrived to help, and he actually had several women approach him either through Facebook or in person, through text, through phone calls, passing messages on, all of the above, saying, "Hey, it's really nice to know that in our circle of friends, if we don't have police assistance available, that you guys will stand up and protect each other, because what if it had just been him barehanded against these home invaders?" And that's just one more story I love, because nobody got shot, nobody had to die, but they would have defended this man if he had been threatened, if they had attacked this man, and they had the right constitutionally to defend his property. They had the right constitutionally to run these creeps off, and they did so. And they didn't do it in a stupid fashion. There was no needless bloodshed, no needless gunfire, but they would have protected him in his home if they had to. So if you identify with this, if this is something that you like to hear and you would like to know more about these, check out my other videos. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that like button and share this with your friends. Have yourselves a great day.